Over the last 25 years, I've had the privilege and an honour to question 3 mayors, all very different in their approaches, all very different in the way they came to the job. What was your view when you took up your position of Mayor of London?
I remember vividly the interrogations by the London Assembly, and I remember you leading them at one stage, Len. I can't remember whether you boxed and coxed with Jeanette Arnold and various other people. But look, I thought it was a fantastic system. And the odd thing about it was, although it was very adversarial, and you were there to hold me to account, you were there to pick me up, you were there to, if you could, embarrass me as much as possible. And sometimes, you did score a lot of points, so to chip a lot of paint off me. But actually, the funny thing about that building, everybody in it was basically working to the same ambition, which was to make it the greatest city on earth and to try and make things better for Londoners, and Londoners of all backgrounds. And so it didn't really matter how adversarial and how hostile the atmosphere got. And so I think actually the work of the mayoralty, the work of my team, or whatever floor we were on, the 8th floor or whatever it was, I think it was greatly improved for having the knowledge of that scrutiny.
It took you time to bed yourself in, but once you got going, it certainly felt that you were switching on the levers to achieve what you wanted to do. Tell us more about that relationship with the Assembly.
Yeah, I think the great thing about the Assembly was that it was a repository of wisdom about London. Quite a diverse group of Londoners, really, if you think about it. They all had something to contribute. You needed them to be tough on you, and I think things were better for that. You're very kind in your description. Actually, I think the first year, as far as I had 8 years, were very happy years, and very, very productive years. But let's face it, the first year, Len, was a bit of a shambles. I had all those deputy mayors. Remember, I had all those deputy mayors. And one of them, got into some sort of Chinese honey trap, and it was unbelievable. And one of them, with dear, brilliant Ray Lewis, came a cropper over, some small inaccuracies in his CV or some nonsense, which was totally unfair because he was a brilliant guy. But you remember there was a sort of series of my deputy mayors, and you loved it. I remember the Assembly loved that stuff. It was meat and drink, all the cock-ups that came from the 8th floor. You were absolutely on them, and I don't blame you. It then did tighten up quite a lot.
You did, and some of the work that Simon Milton did, your chief of staff, and sadly, when Eddie took over from Simon, in terms of those circumstances, that support around you changed, and some of those issues in that.
That's spot on. That's spot on.
You learned well.
That's spot on. I think that's absolutely spot on, and it became actually a very dynamic team. And we got so much done. We got so much done. And the thing about the mayoralty is that it really is. I think it's a sort of. When Blair created it, and he created the Assembly, and everything was in. I don't think central government realised quite what they were building, and I don't think they understood quite how effective it could be. And so with my illustrious predecessor, with Ken, he, who actually I had a lot of time for, as you know, and I thought he was a very creative public servant, and he really did a lot of interesting things. And when I came in, I found that there was a team of people there who really believed in the power of the office and the power of the whole GLA to do good things for Londoners, and I totally believed in it, and we did. I mean, if you look at the record, there were a lot of things: cutting crime, improving the environment, delivering a very good Olympics. We did a lot of good stuff. I mean, look, my basic interaction with the London Assembly, as you know, was a monthly kind of Paris-Dakar rally thing where it was basically a game of survival. And my technique was utterly, I mean, it was wrong, okay, but it was so long, it was 2.25 hours, and you couldn't go to lunch. It was Wednesday morning. You couldn't go to lunch until you'd finished. And dear old Jeanette Arnold was always sort of awarding, well, maybe it was you, mainly Jeanette, wasn't it? Always awarding more time. And so look, I got to admit, Len, I filibustered. I did, and that didn't matter very much because sometimes the conversations would just meander on, and they would suddenly in the middle get really quite interesting, and some new idea would crop up, and it wasn't a wholly bad way of trying to get to the heart of some of the problems we were all, one way or another dealing with. Over that amount of time, it was quite difficult to avoid the reality of whatever problem it was. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah. Right, let's do this. Let's show you this. That
means then that we then thank the Mayor for his attendance, because the Assembly members have decided they have no questions to put to you.
Are you saying they're abdicating their duty to scrutinise me? Are you saying they haven't the guts to put questions to me?
What
Great
is it,
supine protoplasmic invertebrate jellies. That's it.
They
don't want to ask me any questions.
We are now on to next business.
You've been cheated. Your Labour accomplices have failed in their.
Mr. Mayor, thank you. Can I ask Sir Eddie and Martin if they would take a seat elsewhere? And thank you, Mr. Mayor. Yes, you are. That's it.
Well, I think I should have stayed my ground. I should have stood my. What was? I don't remember what that was about at all. It was obviously about the LFIPA. It was obviously about the FPU.
It was about.
It must have been about. I think it must have been about closure of fire stations.
Yes,
and that was the issue at the time. And actually, if you looked at it, the evidence was that the London Fire Brigade was doing an absolutely amazing job.
That's part of the relationship, as we talked earlier about the adversarial issues, because that relationship evolved. You'd have this 1 minute, and as you said, next time there would be something in the debate that would cause you to, hold on, I want to listen to this, I want to try and understand why you're raising this. Let's show you another one.
How can cutting fire stations, cutting fire engines, cutting firefighters' posts not be a reduction in fire cover?
Because we're improving fire cover, as I've said several times, and by continuing to reduce deaths from fire and continuing to reduce the incidence of fire. That is the name of the game. It's not about
you lied to the people of London in your election.
Get stuffed.
Can I call on you to withdraw that remark, Matt?
Yeah. I'm sorry. I apologise to it just popped out. I'm very sorry.
And those exchanges are not typical, but they were those moments in the chamber. I recall one of my greatest moments and laughs. There was a member who, I think it was the British National Party member, who was speaking.
BNP member?
There was a BNP member once who was speaking, and there was something that was pretty obnoxious being said, and I remember you sitting in the chair and you mimicked sitting on a toilet and pouring an overhead system as he went through it. And the old chamber, that's exactly that. And the old chamber completely fell about laughing, except of course the member.
I do vaguely remember that. There's interesting times for us, you see, because actually, and it's going to sound nostalgic now, but Len, if you think about it, politics was much less angry.
Yes.
And people were, and although there was sharp ideological differences, everybody pretty much had the same vision for what kind of a country we were and what kind of a place we want to be. And I think, you talk about that BNP guy. He had nul point, right? And when I was there, I don't remember the UKIP party being anywhere on the scene, or do you remember that? It was like, where were they? It kind of feels to me like the whole country needs to get back to something like that agenda, which was basically not trying to be beastly to other people, but trying to level up, because that's what we did in London. Why everybody was basically one way or another working on the same agenda. It was all about trying to make sure the Londoners who had it toughest, the Londoners who got up at 4 o'clock in the morning going to work, they had an opportunity to build a better life for themselves and for their families and for their kids. That was what everybody was based one way or another on the same. And we weren't really thinking about who those Londoners were or where they came from the whole time, right? And call me starry-eyed, but I think things were a bit better back in those days.
Now, over the past 25 years, every mayor has had a view about devolution, a little bit more coming down from central government. Do you think there is a further case for devolution in London to both the Assembly and the Mayor?
I think you've got to be careful. The answer is not always just to give more power to various bodies, and I certainly think when it comes to having been Prime Minister of the UK now, I'd be cautious about more devolution to Cardiff and to Edinburgh and so on. I really would be cautious about that because I actually don't think there's any need for it. I think when it comes to property taxes and when it comes to how property taxes are set, I think the case for giving London or giving Manchester that slug of money is quite good because you're giving them an incentive to maximise the revenue and to pursue policies that are going to promote investment, promote growth, and allow them to fund great objectives.
And on summonsing powers, you've been summoned before the Assembly.
Yes.
Should we?
I don't remember why. But yes, I'm sure I was. The general spend over. This is going to hurt me more than it hurts you, kind of thing.
One or two occasions.
Yeah, I remember. Yeah.
But do you think there is a case for widening the summons power in terms of appropriateness?
Summon anybody.
Why should
I think you
anybody?
used to summon me even after I'd left. I think you summoned me. I think you summoned me. As Foreign Secretary, to summon the London Assembly.
Yes.
I faithfully came along there. Such was my devotion to your institution. I did engage. I can't remember what the hell your problem was.
Garden Bridge.
Was there?
There were some slight problems with some of those issues.
Okay, well, I did my best to answer your questions, and I hope I took it seriously. I do think it's important that the Assembly should have that power. I really do, and I think the Assembly is unbelievably important because the Mayor of London, and I don't know, I can't speak for the Mayor of Manchester, but it is the most powerful monarchical position that I can think of in the UK Constitution, right? You have as Mayor, you have a pretty big budget, and you more or less say to one, go and he goeth, and to another, come and he cometh, so to speak. And you get stuff done very, very fast. So you do need an Assembly, and Londoners need an Assembly that's on it and knows. And what you were also good at, I think, in the London Assembly, actually, the London Assembly was very, very good at knowing what was what on the 8th floor. And, just being friends with my team, you kind of knew what was happening and you knew where things were going wrong. You know what I mean? It wasn't like anything was news to you. And I think that was actually quite healthy.
And look, the good and bad bits of the job. And sometimes we have to deal with drudgery. There's bits of the job that we didn't like. Was it about appearing before the Assembly? I got the feeling that you quite enjoyed jousting. You enjoyed sparring with your opponents.
I find it genuinely valuable. So I'd get up very early in the morning, and there'd be this big file that had been prepared for you by the officials, which was always very good. And it had the sort of model answers. And you were always much better off if you just stuck to the model answers, because they would. If I'd just said the model answers and shut up, we'd have got through it in half the time, and it'd have looked much better. But yeah, I enjoyed debating the issues because, oddly enough, I think, as I say, in that 2.5 hours, whatever it was, we did occasionally get some ideas, and I would come away from it. Very often, I go straight back to the 8th floor and say, "Why haven't we done that? We've got to do that." And so it was valuable from that point of view.
What would you like to see from a future? What would the Assembly look like and the mayoralty in 25 years' time?
I hope that it will go from strength to strength, and I think that most people would say, I'm certainly, that the London devolution experiment has been a great success, and I think that the Assembly has been crucial in that. I hope that the Assembly will continue to champion development, because there is space in London. That we can build more great housing. I hope that the Assembly will maintain its idealism. Fundamentally, the odd thing about that whole building, it was full of very young people who were very idealistic and who basically had a vision for the city, which was more or less the same, whichever party you were in. Hold the mayor to account for not doing enough. That's what I think they need to do.
Boris Johnson, former Mayor of London, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.